What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well today. I hope you can strap yourselves in, as this is going to be a bit of a longer video than I usually do. So MX Simulator in December of this year is going to be turning 15 years old. I believe it was released around December 2007, and what I thought would be a good idea is go back through all the years, take a track from each year, just do a lap of it, and almost like a celebration of a game that's been around for over half of my life at least. Bearing in mind I only started playing the game around 2015 or so, but still had a massive impact on me. I remember coming home from school most days, just grinding out the hours trying to get good at this bloody frustrating game, and I'm sure you all know the stresses as well, and I know that this game is probably older than some of you watching this as well, which in my mind is just crazy to think of. So starting off 2008, this is at Anaheim Free Replica by Gordy, and nothing too special of course. I want you to take all of these earlier on tracks at least with a pinch of salt, because we didn't have all of these like masterminds that have really perfected their craft like we do nowadays. And one thing that was actually very difficult actually in these early tracks is trying to find a track that I could download, because for those who don't know, the website that used to be the main go-to for tracks was Pure MXS. However, that doesn't exist anymore, so I just had to hope that people put extra links or uploaded it directly to the forums, which isn't really a thing anymore, and luckily a few did. And there's a few kind of repeat track makers that you'll see in these early years as well, again just because it was hard trying to find those real top quality tracks. So moving on to 2009 here, this is Springberg by DJ99X, who it has a couple more in here as well. I feel like DJ was one of the very early pioneers of really good tracks on Sim, and one thing you will notice as well in these early tracks is I am sliding all over the place. Some of you didn't have the pleasure of playing on stock JLV traction, and some people still complain about the traction nowadays, even on the updated RF tracks, which I believe, in my opinion, are like tarmac, but you know, that's personal opinion at the end of the day. But if you want a challenge, go and play some of these old ones, go and play the stock JLV Supercross tracks, which actually, if I think about it now, a few of you probably have played those stock tracks. And I do want to say as well, it seems like over the years there's a common theme of the tracks A, getting more traction, and then B, just kind of getting faster, and the pace overall seems to be getting faster, less technical bumps and ruts and stuff. So if you do really want a challenge on the game, go and try and play some of these old ones, especially this one you're looking at right now, Black Mesa. This isn't the first time I played this track. I played this track back when I first bought the game as well. I can probably count on one hand the amount of tracks that are more difficult to run a hot lap on. The traction on this track for a start is insane. So it's a sand track, and if you hit a tiny bump or oversteer or understeer a tiny bit with your front wheel like turned slightly the wrong way, it could be a millimeter, it will knife, it will kick you over the bars. Very difficult track. I think this track was actually the one that took me the longest to get a clean lap. I want to say maybe like 20 minutes or so. It's a 2.5 minute lap time, although I'm sure you guys can probably blow that out of the water. Now, one thing that I was trying to do at the same time on these tracks is reuse a bike that was kind of the same year as the track. So there's obviously not a dyno for every single year in the game, but I was trying to get as close as possible. I don't know what year this one is, but it's a Honda 250, one of the very old ones. And I want to say it's around like 2011 or so. And the like 2012, for example, that you'll see coming up is on one of the two strokes. We do actually have a 2012 YZ250. But I tried to, well, I mean, the reason I done that was to get a better sense of how the track rides. There's no point in me loading up these older tracks and hopping on a modern 450, because they would just be way overpowered and the tracks wasn't designed for it either. But 100%, this Black Mesa track by DJ, probably still today one of the hardest tracks. And if you go on the TM Factory website, it's literally down as one of the tracks in the Hall of Fame. And I can completely see why. It's one of them that I think has stood the test of time. I think the only one gripe I have about the track and its entirety is probably the size of the bales. Like, these hay bales on the inside are absolutely huge. Other than that, really insane. And if you compare this to anything else that was around at that time, it is head and shoulders above it. And I still think this is better than the majority of tracks that come out nowadays. And that's not to try and discredit people at all. It just goes to show kind of what an innovator DJ was, and I don't think he's around anymore. I can't remember the last time I saw his name on a forum post or thread, but 100% this man was one of the, let's say, like founding fathers, maybe that's a good way of putting it, of the game way back in the early days. Now moving on to another man who's been very important in the growth of I was about to say growth of MX bikes, Growth of MX Simulator contributed very, very heavily in multiple seasons of the RF Championships, building tracks on a weekly basis. This is Checkers, and I know he went on a bit of a hiatus. I think he's back in some capacity now, but probably not as much as we used to see him. This is Mission Valley 2. Now, I can't remember the reason that I chose 2 over 1. I feel like 1 came out in 2010 as well, and I really wanted to play a Mission Valley because I remember playing it back in the day. So I think I chose Mission Valley 2, which is essentially it's just like the original but in reverse. And I will put links to all these tracks in the description if you want to go and play any of these yourself. Worth noting, if you want to play this one, you do need to have the original Mission Valley as well. Probably for just like objects and things like that. But that will be in there for your pleasure. And absolutely huge shout out to TM Infidel, who runs the TM Factory website. I mean, A, for keeping track of all these tracks over the last 15 or so years, but then B as well, some of these tracks come directly from like his page. Like, he's re-uploaded them for us to be able to play, which I think is really, really incredible. I have no idea how he stuck around for so many years, and God knows how long it must take to kind of upkeep that website and put all of the up-to-date bikes and paints and everything on there. Man must have a lot of spare time, that's all I can say. And one of the few people that kind of keeps the TMs alive as well. I know that I don't know if it's every year, but most years he'll model something, which is really, really nice that the TMs are still alive and breathing. It's almost like a bit of a fandom over there. But yeah, massive shout out, because a lot of these tracks that you are watching in this video, I didn't want to go scrolling through pages and pages of forum threads and tracks, so I went on the TM Factory website, and you can actually filter by year on there as well with tracks. Not every year, so you can do like 2008 to 2013, for example, or then it goes in, I think, groups of 2, so like 2015 to 16, so on and so forth. And it made my life so much easier when it came to choosing tracks. I think I would have been there for so long trying to pick one out. And yeah, Mission Valley 2 that you're seeing here is another one that's in that Hall of Fame list, along with Black Mesa, and one of those very, very early tracks that were just very, very good. And again, this track actually took me quite a long time to get good, because it's a very slippery track as well. A little bit grippier than JLB stock traction, but still quite slidey. But then a lot of the bumps I found quite difficult to predict, very, very choppy. Fort Winton right here, first 2-stroke of the video. I apologise that your ears are probably going to get blown off, because as we know, the stock 2-stroke downs in this game are not ideal. Just realised that I left a little bit of an error in there. I probably should have cut that earlier, but you know what? We roll with it. We don't care. What's another 10 seconds added onto this already extremely long video? But Fort Winton. Sand track. As you guys know, I'm pretty down bad when it comes to sand tracks on this game. But I actually quite enjoyed this. Very, very difficult. Again, it's not the normal kind of modern day sand traction that you get. It is slipperier. And again, if you let that front wheel kind of fall away from you a little bit too much, it will grab it and it will send you flying over the bars. But I think very, very good track. Now, I had never played this track up until making this video. What I had done, however, is seen quite a few screenshots over the years of people playing on it, and I always thought it was one of them tracks that looked quite cool and I wanted to have a go myself, but I could never work out where it was from. So at least now I know, and I think this is, what is this, like the 3rd DJ track out of 5? So 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah, 5. And I think it might be the last one. One thing that I was conscious in the back of my mind as well when I was making this is I didn't want to overdo it on certain track makers. Then I feel like if you was to take a year as a whole, there are certain tracks that you can't really leave out. So if 1 or 2 tracks in this video are literally like nothing tracks, you know, just very, very random ones, then for the most part I wanted to almost pick like the track of the year, in my opinion, or things that stand out most importantly to me. Oh, please don't crash here. Yeah, I didn't, thank God. Oh God, I was worried that I'd left 2 crashes in on this video. That would have been awkward. But yeah, I think on these earlier tracks as well, you'll see that some of the laps are quite scrappy, and that is purely from the fact that they are very, very difficult. I think nowadays we're almost kind of, I don't know, I think we're treated quite well in terms of tracks. I think majority of the tracks that come out nowadays are so easy in comparison. You know, you've got unlimited amounts of traction, you've got massive ruts, you can really get cranked over in the corners, and these older tracks, they really, really test you. Like, you can't lean it over too far or you'll fall over because the ruts aren't huge. You can't accelerate too hard out the corners, you've got to be really, really careful with the front end. And I think this one here, so 21st, for God's sake, I made a bloody typo. It's Summit Lake, not Simmet Lake. God damn it, what's wrong with me? And this is by Blaster 70. and I think this is the last one of the what I call like the ice skatey tracks. And I feel like from this point onwards, you really do see an increase in not so much the track quality in terms of height map and stuff, because I still think these old boys done a really good job given the tools they had at the time. I think most of them probably did use a track editor. I think Checkers has probably always used Photoshop. I'm not sure on that, but I know anytime I used to go and watch his streams when he was creating RF tracks, he was always in Photoshop. But yeah, Blaster 7 here, quite a natural track, not massive ruts by any means, and obviously roads didn't exist on the game back then, but I imagine this would be quite a good track to play with a road. You can see how careful I am in these corners, like try not to lean over too far. I don't want to just tip it over. You see very little choppy bumps going into the corners that if you brake too much or you're leant a little bit wrong, it'll send you straight to the ground. But I did have just really good fun playing these, and some of them were a bit of a nostalgia trip for me. Some of these I played back when I first started. Some of these I'd never even heard of, so it was quite nice. So again, like Fort Winton, that was my first time playing that, and I really enjoyed it as well. And it was nice going through all the different dynos, because I feel like, especially nowadays, people get stuck in a bit of a rut on what bike they're using. They just see what the fastest qualifier uses and use that and stick with it, thinking it's the best. However, in my opinion, the best bike ever to be seen on this game is the, I can't remember if I think it's the 2011 or 2013. I can't remember exactly which one, which is going to make me look a bit stupid. But Yamaha 250, 4-stroke that is. I always just use that in Supercross, and I loved it. It's one of them where you can kind of bog the bike around the track rather than scream it everywhere, and I used to absolutely love it. And Hunter Root, who I don't believe plays the game anymore, but some of you older sim players will know who he is. Incredibly fast, like stupidly fast back in his day, won so many championships. He used to be a massive advocate of that as well. So moving on to 2014 here, Apex Motor Park by Mecca 96. This is actually a UK track, and I saw it at first and I was like, I had no idea that existed. But then I loaded it up and I realised, oh yes, actually I have played this track years and years ago. Very tight and twisty technical track. It's one of them that, I don't know how far away it is from me in real life actually. I want to say it's like a 3-hour or so drive. One of them tracks that I always see videos of and stuff like that on Instagram, just people hitting the jumps and stuff, because I think IRL the jumps are actually a lot bigger than they appear in game. I think it's like quite one-to-one scale, and we know for the most part the bikes in this game are fairly overpowered. But it's one of them I would like to go to at some point, and it's very unique. You kind of got the tyres on the posts outlining the entire track rather than your standard tape or rope, and some nice jumps at this track that I think I'd love to have a go at hitting. And I even had to hop on the 125 again. Sorry to blow your ears off with the sound of the bumblebee in the background, but just because I thought the track was quite small, and this actually was fairly slippery as well, come to think of it. Not so much on the back end, but I seem to be having a lot of grief on the front. I feel like I can't do much else other than just lean forwards in the corners as much as I can, and I try for the most part to roll on the power, but when you're on a 125 you don't want to be doing that. You just want to have it singing as much as possible. But yeah, the videos that I've seen on this track IRL and comparing it to this track, I think he's done an incredible job of replicating this, and I think there was quite a... So Mecca himself is from Sweden, and I feel like there must have been quite a few UK guys kind of giving him tips and stuff behind the scene, because it's quite a popular track, I believe, in the UK. One of them ones that most people go to at some point. I think it's just the drive that means I've not been there for a while. And there you go. Here's the funny track for the video. So again, I said I was using the TM factory website. I completely forgot that I ever made this track, and it's quite painful to watch looking back at it, because it's absolutely dreadful. That section that I just went through I don't mind, but the berms are in bad shape. I feel like all of the rhythm sections and stuff are in really bad shape, and it just doesn't flow well at all. I have no idea what's thinking. I mean, even the bloody timing gates don't work, for crying out loud. But I thought I'd do 2 laps around here rather than 1, just to show off some different line choice, even though I'm pretty sure I completely get it all wrong, as you see right there. Yeah, I forgot that I made it. So I've actually made 3 tracks in MX Simulator rather than 2. But this one I would probably not recommend ever playing, because it's probably just a waste of memory on your computer. I thought I was being smart back in the day, like, oh, I'll do split lanes here, there and everywhere, it'll be so unique and all the lines will kind of be the same pace and stuff, and it's not the case. You can literally just jump through the room sections in one go if you take the outsides, so the insides again just become completely irrelevant. Now, if you want to talk about jumping from one quality of track to the other, Nicholas Sandbox National by MX Fish, I believe this is Nicholas Bloom, brother with Yannick Bloom, I think they work on it together. So this was a scanned track, however it is scanned from Nicholas making a track in a literal like sandbox. So you remember as a kid, you'd make little jumps and use your toy bikes and go over them. That's exactly what he's done, except he's then scanned it in and turned it into a sim track. Now, I don't think this is the first one he done. I want to say he done a really short track prior to this, and this is either his second scan track or his third one. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but this was one of them first massive jumps, I think, in terms of visual quality on MX Simulator tracks, because if you kind of zoom in on anywhere, it actually looks quite blurry and unsightly, but if you kind of look off in the distance, I think it looks incredible. And one thing that I actually really struggled to get a clean lap on this track, the reason being is anywhere on the track where you see the dirt turn slightly dark, that is actually a rut. It's not just decals. Now, I'm used to people just adding decals and you being able to ride on any part and not be affected. But if you kind of ride across any of these darker parts sideways or at a slight angle, it will tuck your front end. And the only complaint I think I have about this track is it's meant to be a sand track. However, some of the ruts, or some of the bumps I feel at least, they're a little bit too jagged. I think they should be smoothed off ever so slightly, because it does feel like you're getting really hit hard by the ground. It doesn't feel too sandy. But again, 2016, I think for its day, incredible track. And I think it was the first scan track that I ever played as well, actually. And I think this was the first paid track on Sim. It was paid content for half a year or so, until and then it was released for free after 6 months, which I think is really, really cool. It's nice that they done that and that everyone have a go at it. And moving on to 2017, we've got another Checkers track here for Tortilla Flats 2, and I remember playing this track on release. Now, story behind this is really when the RF guys and Checkers as well were really trying to work out erode settings for this game when erode was first coming into play. And I remember Checkers kind of releasing this track and messing around with the erode a whole lot. We'd done a whole bunch of test races on it at the time, just trying to work out what the erode was going to be like. And I remember in turn 1, so you kind of hit the double over the finish and book a left 180, there was a massive route on the inside. A lot different to what we get now. I think it's a lot more like Scalextricsy, just kind of like one line around the entire track and that was it. I think at least nowadays there's a little bit more diversity. But saying that, I've not played an eroded Supercross track yet, so I could be talking out my arse. It could be exactly the same, but I know at least Nationals you get a little bit more line choice, and it was nice to kind of go back and play this track after so long. I do remember thoroughly enjoying it back in the day as well. I had no idea what my lap time would have been then, but I can guarantee it was a darn sight better than that one was. A very conservative lap, I would say. And moving on to 2018 here, we've got Cedar Valley MX by Atlas Saw. Now again, this is a track that I had played, however, I'd only ever played the smooth version. This is my first time playing the rough one, and it's not too much of a difference. If you don't hit the bumps in a particular way, it will spit you over the bars. And you see, oh, I got kicked a little bit sideways there, managed to recover by the corner. Atlas Saw, he's one of them that makes very fast, flowy tracks, and again, you'll notice that these tracks, they're getting progressively faster in terms of just average speed around the track as the years go on. And he's one of them that he doesn't kind of pump out the tracks as frequently as other creators, but you kind of get a sense of the quality that you're going to get. And in terms of difficulty, they're more like intermediate, beginner level. And I'm pretty sure this track only took me like 3 laps to get what I consider a clean and somewhat fast go at it. So yeah, I was fairly happy with this one. And it's just a nice track, you know, there's nothing too challenging about it. It's been quite happy just to hop on for a rip on it every now and then. And it is one that I played before, so I suppose I had a little bit of an unfair advantage. I will say that the 450 was probably the right move for me. I think if I was on a 250 or anything smaller, I would probably struggle to get over some of the jumps. I think... oh no, I completely missed this one. Yeah, I had no idea how fast I was meant to hit that. I think this is the furthest point in the lap I'd got to. I'd crashed every other time before this. But yes, very fun track. And I think I've played a few tracks by him over the years and never really been disappointed as such. Now, this one is one that I had actually seen, but for some reason I'd never played. Now, this is a 3D scan of... I think it's 2018 High Point, but it was released in 2019. And this was made by Hunter Root with the help of someone else who I can't remember their name at the times, which I'm really sorry for. But, so fun part of this is, this was scanned via drone. So Hunter took his drone to the track. I think he said it was scanned from about 200 feet up in the air. So if you look at if you look at anything off in the distance, it looks really incredible. It's only until you get up close that you can kind of see the blurriness and such. And one thing that I'm a little bit gutted by, or a little bit disappointed in, is they didn't go to the extent of adding ruts or much in the way of bumps. It's purely just the height map. I believe, and I think they added the jumps manually by hand, and they probably had to smooth out a whole bunch of things and impurities. I imagine that the drone only captures a little bit of what you actually get, but it's still an incredibly fun track. Now, I think I'm racing against myself here because I think I'd done a lap, but I thought it could be better. But originally, the track comes with one of Hunter's time trial laps, so it was actually really, really nice having a battle with him and almost reminiscing back in the day. I mean, he still always had my number, he still beat me to all the championships I competed in with him, but it was nice for me at least to take that trip down memory lane and have a little ride against him, even though it's probably nowhere near as fast as he could go. Just one of them tester laps just to get the track out with. I didn't notice until now actually that the track map is a little bit boofed, which is interesting. I had no idea about that at the time. Is it still the same track layout? I'm just trying to have a look at it to see how it would work. Pop around to the left. No, I don't. No, I don't even think it's High Point, which is quite embarrassing. Oh well. Yeah, still a very, very good track, really good fun, and it's got a good amount of traction as well. So even on these off-camber corners here, where you've got no ruts really to hold you, it's just flat. It's still not that difficult. You still get around fairly good. And if you're looking for a track in terms of visuals, I would say go for this. Like if you look at the ground right below me, it looks awful, but just look off in the distance. I think it looks absolutely insane. And 2020 here is that 2020? I can't see it. It's white writing on a basically white background. Nice job. This is the Deegan Compound by JGMX, also known as JGMT Bike on the forums. Now, you guys know my opinion of JGMX. I don't think there is a more reputable track creator in the community as of right now. He just releases good track after good track after good track, and I don't think he ever misses. Now, I'd not played this track until today, and I thought I'd played nearly all of the JGMX tracks, so I was quite surprised by it. And it is good track, very good, and a lot of the jumps are quite intuitive. You'll hear me a lot of time going on about if you can hit jumps first or second lap round without really having to check up or huck them too much. I feel like the track creator's done a really good job in terms of the corner or the roughness, whatever it might be leading up to the jump, so you can hit it without checking up speed too much. There's a few of the jumps on this track I'd say are a little on the small side, but as I was riding round, I was just kind of going at a chill speed and just seemed to be downsiding everything really, really nicely. And again, it's one of them that only took me 2 or 3 laps to get a fully clean lap in. And it's just a really nice track. I don't have too much more to say in terms of JGMX's tracks because they all fall into the same criteria, I think, of not being super, super difficult, being that nice middle ground between too easy and too hard. Some a little bit more than others, some added a little bit more rough, but for the most part, I think they're just really, really good tracks, and I'd heavily recommend if you was to stick to one creator or play one person's tracks, then it's definitely him. Someone else that appeals to the masses who... The only criticism I have of Matt Rob's tracks, it's a little bit too much traction sometimes. It does feel like sometimes you're riding on tarmac and you can backflip in any occasion, like just lean back a little bit too much, come out the corners. But this is Mesquite MX Park, which is the one for 2021. And I was quite surprised how short of a lap it was when I was riding around. I think it only took me 2 laps to get a clean one. But a really, really fun track. I think it's one of them that's made for erode, because you can see some of the ruts they're there for sure, but not as big as you'd expect them to be if a track wasn't made for erode. I imagine if you had a 40-man race, for example, on this track, the ruts would get so deep, and you could probably absolutely haul arse everywhere. And it's a fairly easy track, nothing too difficult, a little bit sketchy. I think this was the furthest I made it around again in the lap, so I absolutely sent that single without having any idea what was going on. But I'm a fan of most of Matt Rob's tracks. He has covered all of like the MX versus ATV, Reflex, Supercross tracks, and a couple of Nationals tracks as well, which is all good fun to go and play every now and then. Very, very interesting, trying to take those tracks and implement it into a completely different game with different physics, different grip, different speeds. They all seem to work out pretty well, and Matt Robb as well, he was nice enough in the past to make me like a gear and bike set when I was just getting back into MX Simulator, so massive shout out to him. And then finally, moving on to our last track here, this is G-Farm Mare Course, and this is just a random one that I picked out while scrolling through the forums. I'd never heard this one before, I'd never seen it, never ridden it myself, and this is made by Palm 189. That is a name that I've seen a few times while scrolling through tracks, looking for tracks to do videos on in general, but I don't think I played a track by him prior to this. And again, it's one of them where it's very, very fast. I was being quite tentative around it because I just wanted to get some clean laps in for the sake of the video, really. I didn't want to absolutely haul them out. I didn't have literally days and days to kill trying to get footage for this video. But I think it was nice, a very nice and chilled way to end things off. If I had to pick my favourite track out of all of these 15, it's definitely got to be Lindsay X. I'm joking. Please don't shoot me. I don't know which one it would be. Which one did I like playing the most? Honestly, it's going to sound a bit weird because it's purely just a hype map. I really enjoyed that 2019 High Point track. There's something about scan tracks I really enjoy just in terms of realism, and I hope that is the way that we go in the future with more and more scan tracks. I'm aware that not everyone has access to a drone and has access to all these bloody tracks to go and travel to and create an identical replica, but every now and then it's nice seeing it being done, and I definitely want some more of it in MX bikes as well. I think we've only got 1 or 2. But we shall see. We shall see as time goes on what happens. And as this video comes to the end, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for watching it. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you can leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know how many years at this point you've been playing Sim for. As I say, it's its 15th birthday. I've been on it for about 7 years now, on and off. That'll do it from me. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Until I catch you next video. Peace.
I'm working hard, I'm sacrificing my life, I'm sacrificing my mind, I'm sacrificing my sanity, but most importantly, I'm sacrificing my time. Boy, I feel fine, I feel like I am a king. Honestly, I can't complain, even with faith that's the size of a grain of some salt, I will still move a mountain and do what I want.